Welcome to Teach Me a Lesson. I am Elliott G-B, and first off, as always, thank you so much for checking out the podcast. In this day and age, baby, we live in the future. You could be doing anything, you could be watching anything, you got the world at your fingertips, and you are spending that time here with us, and it's greatly appreciated, okay? It does not go unnoticed. You are in the top 1% of my favorite people. Also, if you want to extend that support in other ways, you can follow me on all social media platforms at GrentRadish, GrentRadish, and you can also come check out a live show. I finally have some show dates to plug, so if you are going to be in Madison or the Madison, Wisconsin area towards the end of March 24th, I will be at Comedy on State hosting for Mr. D. Joe Dombrowski himself. It'll be a very great show. Then I'll also be there on Friday and Saturday, the 24th and the 25th, hosting for Jordan Jensen. Very funny comic out of New York. So the whole weekend's going to be great. Going to be a lot of fun shows. So definitely come check that out. Get your tickets now before they sell out, because that place is one of the best clubs in the country. It sells out almost every time. So get your tickets now. It's going to be fun. Come say what's up. Also, you can follow the podcast on all social media platforms at TMAL Pod. Short for Teach Me a Lesson Pod, and TikTok at Teach Me a Lesson Pod. But one of the best ways you can support is, boom, if you're watching on YouTube right there, go to patreon.com/ElliottGB, ELLIOTT, and for $5 a month, you can get bonus content for each episode. There's stuff I got to cut out. It's not because it's not good. It's because it could be too long, and I don't want these episodes to be too long. I think around an hour is a sweet spot. That's what I shoot for, but sometimes, you know, you just got to make the tough call. You got to cut some stuff out. So for $5 a month, you get access to that. For $10 a month, you get some of my merch. You get access to that, all the past episodes, all that stuff. But you also get a shout out if you're $5 or above. You can also go for $3. I know this is kind of confusing. I'm going all over the place. But for starting at $3, you can show your support. $5, you get bonus content and a shout out. $10, you get merch and all the previous stuff. And also some fun stuff happen in the future. But shouting out right now, we got two patrons. We got the wonderful Kristen G. That's my mom. She's great. She's awesome. We also have the wonderful Jason Punswick. You know what? That's my mom too. Join the Patreon for $5 a month. You get to be my mom for a day on this episode, and you get to be great. So shout out to those two. Thank you so much for your support. It means a whole lot. Couldn't do it without you. You're great. You're wonderful. You're kind. You is smart. You is kind. I've never seen that movie, but I try to quote that all the time. And every time I'm scared someone's going to be like, that's not the quote. Have you seen the movie? And then, you know how it goes. You got to pack up. You got to move states. You got to change names. It's a whole thing. Am I right? When you misquote a movie and you just got to pretend you died and changed your life around, instead of just admitting, hey, yeah, I didn't see the movie. Anyways, we've all been there. We get it. What was I saying? Oh, also don't forget to rate and review the podcast. 5 stars, 4 stars, 3 stars, anything below that. As always, email me and we'll talk about it like adults. But yeah, Apple Podcasts, rate and review. Spotify, you can rate and review now. So that's a big one. That really helps. That really helps get the word out. Also, if you're following on social media, please post, tell people, repost this stuff, share it around. And that just doesn't go for this podcast. That goes for any artist or creative person that makes work that you enjoy. It really sounds like it doesn't make a difference. It's something so small. It's free. How can one follower or some followers or some retweets or some reposts, how can that help? Well, it gets eyes on the work, okay? And it's free. It doesn't cost you a thing. All you got to do is tap your screen a couple times, and we all do that enough over the day, right? We all just tap away. But it really does make a difference because it helps get it out there, and it means a lot. As little as it seems, huh? As little as it seems. I know the word. I've seen that movie. I know. I've seen the movie of that word. I know about it. Trust me. Don't step to me on it. Anyways, this is going downhill quick. Let's just get to this episode. It's a great episode with a very funny comic from Portland who has a documentary coming out in the near future about comedy after COVID. What that looks like, and let me tell you from experience, it's very different. It's very challenging. So yeah, he's a very funny comic, very great guy. I'm very happy to be able to sit down and have this conversation with him, and I really hope you enjoy. Jake Silberman. That's the scariest part, is being like, around the same time where I was like, should I keep doing comedy? At the same time, I'm like, is this just not for me? Am I is same kind of thing where I'm like, am I
Right,
just one
right.
of these people that doesn't realize like this ain't it? That's
I
fucking
I know
terrifying.
I mean I feel like every comic it's weird because you also have to go through that to be like humble and to be like, like you got to kind of have those moments where you're like, "Oh boy, okay. I thought I was doing okay. I thought I was getting better, but tonight maybe this was like the world being like, nah, man, like you got to get out, or like you do a bad show, you have a bad set, and you're just like, or you're just doing open mics for 2 weeks straight, and you're just like, God damn it, I can't get booked on it, like all that shit. Like it just, you have to really fucking get through a lot to fucking make this happen, and not want to just be like, you like the I think stand up for 99.9% of comics pulls you naturally towards bitterness, and you kind of have to really be on your shit not to get that way, because you're constantly seeing things that you're like, this does not seem fair, like whatever fairness doctrine you have in your head about how stand up is supposed to work and who's funniest, like that is just gets shattered basically moment by moment, and especially with social media, you're constantly seeing like, I'll like book a good show and then literally go online and be like, fuck, I hate myself. Or like, who the fuck?
Yeah.
Within minutes of being like, dope, great opportunity. It's coming my way. And then you go on Instagram and you're like, fuck me. This is bullshit. The world is bullshit. So it's constantly trying to get you to be this like bitter, angry person. And you really, really always have to be like, all right, like you can only focus on you. Like you have your path that, whatever they're doing, that's their, but that it takes a lot of work to fucking not want to just go fucking ape shit on the whole game and just dip.
Instagram hasn't been working on my phone. My phone's like
Oh,
on its
good.
way out. So Instagram hasn't
Yes.
been working for the last like month or two, and it really bothered me at first. But now I'm like,
That's what's
this
up,
is
dude.
working wonders for
Oh
my
my
mental
God.
health.
I broke my phone screen for like 2 days, a couple days ago, and like best 2 days. Like it's just like, oh, can't use it. Just leave it at home. Don't have to worry about it. Not doing that
Yeah.
constant checking your pocket to see if you should. Dude, it's so. If we could all mutually agree to get rid of these things, we would be better off. But since no one will do that, we all are like, well, I guess I have to be on it just as much as everybody else because
Yeah,
I can't
yeah.
be left behind. And yeah, we're all gonna fucking just kill ourselves at some point. It's fucking bad.
Now, how crazy would it be if we all agreed on that?
Dude, let's get in a cult type of thing and just fucking exit out, baby.
If damn, that's funny because it's like, well, we would all have to do that over our smartphones, but then even then,
Yes.
it'd still be Apple versus Android, and
And people be like, oh,
so
I'm gonna let them do it. And yeah, no,
how
we can't
sad
get
is that?
together.
As a human race, we can't even all agree to just kill ourselves at the same time
It's
because we're
tough.
letting technology get in the way.
Some people just believe they should be around, and that's a problem. That's a problem in America these days. People just believe they should still be alive. Back in my day, when this country used to stand for something, we could all get behind it, like the Moon Project. Just if Kennedy said, "Drink this Kool-Aid," we would all done it because we
And
love the
now's
U.S.
the
of
day
A.
we all go. Everyone's like,
It's
hell
all
yeah.
time to die, 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 die.
All right, well, let's get into it. I think that's a
Yeah.
perfect segue.
Yes.
What's your lesson? What do you want to talk about?
I was having trouble putting into words. I was wondering actually if some of your guests have like, because when you're like, all right, this seems like a simple premise. Like, what is a lesson that you've learned in life? But then you realize, like, man, like all that shit that they tell you in like sports, like, well, being on this team is gonna help. You'll apply these lessons for the rest of your life. You kind of realize like that's not really how lessons work. Like, unless you have, I think maybe like survival lessons work that way, right? Like if you touch your
Hmm.
hand to a hot stove, pretty much you've learned that lesson. Like you don't most people are not going to repeat that. They just know that's like a thing. But these like kind of more philosophical, how do I live my life? Those lessons, like they come and go. You think you learn it and then you recede. You don't like your progress is not linear. You're like, "Oh, like I think I'm this way. I'm going to live my life this way." And then you realize like 6 months, you're like, what the fuck? Like, I'm just doing the same shit. So it was actually like I was having to think about it. I was like, oh, fuck. Like, and then you're also, and then I was such a neurotic. I'm like, maybe I've never learned a single lesson in my life, you know, like I just like, maybe every other person has learned lessons and I'm just, you know, like you're like on the outside of this world where you're like, fuck, I have no lessons. I have nothing to share. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, you know? So, but I was kind of focusing on, and I've learned it a few different places, but like, I don't know what else to call it besides like kind of a mix of like, kind of like a thick skin and this too shall pass. It's like if you could hybrid
Mm.
those, I guess, because like I worked in a summer in Alaska. I was like a bartender in this tiny little town. You know, it was like this hotel in the middle of nowhere in the national park, and I worked there. And I had this fucking just boss who owned this place. He was this just just one of these bosses who just fucking
Hmm.
chewed you out in front of everybody, chewed me out almost as soon as I met him. You know, didn't give me the time. Like he had hired me, and I was like, "Hey, you know, I'm Jake," and he goes, "Who the fuck are you?" And I'm just like, "All right, you know." And that summer, though, I realized, like, you know, after getting yelled at so many times, just being like, oh, like this doesn't really matter that somebody like is tripping out on you, you know, like because you know this dude like he would like see me pour a drink that he didn't like the way I poured it or whatever and like scream at me in front of 70 people, like just, you know, trying to embarrass you. And you do that enough and you realize like this really ain't shit. Like you just start to realize like this dude is, it's only one dude. Like this is just this guy's little world. It's not like it's not the whole universe fucking hating you. It's just this fucking one dude who's got his own set of shit that he's like trying to spew all over you. And like you just kind of like realize that it's like, ah, like this is A, this is not that big of a deal, and B, like even if I'm upset about it, he's eventually gonna stop yelling and he's gonna go away and he's gonna do his own thing, you know. So that's I guess kind of the lesson, if that makes any sense.
No, that makes sense, and that like really makes me think of how I kind of learned that same thing, but it was working in kitchens and
Yeah,
in
yeah, I'm
restaurants.
sure
But
like a server industry deals with this kind of
yeah,
shit a lot.
and I think it's for me it was kitchens especially because it was like it kind of for me it was like don't take things personally
Yeah.
in on the clock. I mean, if someone's like "fuck you, Elliot," in particular for the way
Or
that you walk, then I'm like,
right,
okay, yeah, that's a little
right,
different. But if you know it's something about like an order's late or you know something just something like that has to do with service or what's going on in there,
yeah,
especially as a cook, knowing like okay, if a server comes back and is fucking hot and they're pissed off about whatever, that's it's in that little moment, and who knows what they have going on out there because I don't see the customer. For all I know, this customer could be insane and is just
right,
going off about every little thing, and
right,
servers have more than one table, so they're like, I just want to shut this dude up so I can go back to whatever it is I'm doing. So then if they bring that back to me, it's not necessarily about me again unless it is something very specific, but for the most
right,
part it's just like, yeah, this is happening, but like we're all stressed right now.
right.
So in kind of the key I learned in that in those moments are be as short and to the point as possible.
Yeah,
Because especially in those where someone's, well, this guy, he, you know, he just got off a plane and so he's
right,
kind of tired. And I'm like, what does he want? Just tell me what he wants and we'll figure out how to do it. And that's it. But for the most part, it's like, if I say that to you, it's not because I don't like you or whatever. It's just that we all have other shit going on. So
right.
let's get to it. Um, but also in that same uh, kind of line of thinking, it's like if this dude's constantly going off on you, eventually you're just gonna be like, oh, this dude seems like there's something else going on here. If
Yeah,
there's no other way for him to communicate
right.
but to just constantly go off, it's like,
Yeah,
okay, yeah, I don't really think this is a me issue at this point.
right. And there was actually like a lot of the work, the people who were working for him, like quickly bonded over how much they were like, oh, this guy just yells at all of us all the time.
Yeah.
And he is crazy, you know. And this guy has whatever his life has led him to, just like, the only way I can deal with people is fucking screaming at them, and then I'll get my way and whatever. You just quickly are like, oh, like, it's almost like a game to be like, oh, how, like, not pissed can I get right now because this guy is, like, fucking chewing me out, like.
Yeah.
And I remember just, like, leaving that summer being like, damn, that was, like, crazy. Like, like, because when you're in it, you're also just not maybe taking it in, like, fully. But when you're, like, outside of it, you're like, holy shit, that dude was always yelling at me. Like, he was
Yeah.
always pissed and he was always screaming. And you're like, oh, and then you kind of get to look back and be like, oh, but I made it. Like, I'm here. I got the money. Like, the goal was achieved, of, like, getting paid this summer, and I did something cool. And, like, you try to take that forward of, like, oh yeah, like, if I come across another person who's, like, a psycho like this, that's kind of like also just what adulthood is. Like, being an adult is, like, dealing with people who are fucking whatever they're, whatever is going on, and being like, all right, like, you're coming at me with this way. How can I, like, receive that without fucking losing my shit and getting fucking heated, and then, like, keeping my day going? Because especially people with, like, mental shit like depression or anxiety, you take some bad energy, dude, you're fucked. You could be fucked for days. Like, you could
Yeah.
just be
Yeah.
like down, and you can't let that happen. I mean, you got other shit going on. You can't just fucking be derailed because somebody yelled at you, and that's like a thing. Like, you have to fucking keep going. You can't let their shit ruin your life.
Yeah. That like honestly just brings me back to the Instagram thing, where it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I like now, because I mean I'm gonna get a new phone, but I'm honestly like just right now being like, should I even install Instagram on it? Because
It's tough, dude.
especially as a comic, it's like everyone's posting their clips or everyone's posting their flyers or pictures from a show.
Right.
And it's like, if you're not getting booked on stuff, or if you're not necessarily stoked on what's going on right now in your
Right.
own career,
Yeah.
then you're going to see that and you're going to be like, everyone is getting everything they want except for me.
Except for me.
And this is the, so yeah, it's that one little thing can then just spiral you into
Yeah,
a
it's
whole,
crazy. I mean, it's
yeah.
crazy how much. I mean, we are, like, social creatures, and so we obviously, like, react to things going around. But yeah, to fucking stay in your lane. Like, people say that as, like, a throwaway thing, like, oh, stay in your lane. I'm like, dude, it's pretty much your life's work to stay in your lane. Like, that's like your whole life is, like, trying to stay in your fucking lane. Because most often you're gonna be like, oh, I want what they got, or they're doing this, and this is cool, and why am I not like this? And and that, like, that's why, like, old people are generally, like, they get happier in some ways, because they're just like, I know who I am. I'm not, when you're fucking young in your 20s, like, it's just your whole brain is just like, what the fuck, why, and then as you age, like, even now I'm 34, like, I could just look back a decade and be like, God, I was a fucking mess back then, dude. I
Yeah.
was a fucking mess trying to, like, navigate and all this shit. And now, just like, you still have bad days, but you're just more like, you've been through so much. You just know, your system and your process so much better than, you used to.
And I think when you're young too, you're trying to like experience as much as possible and
Right.
and do and take in as much as you can. But then as you get older, yeah, as you do learn yourself, you're like, I don't like that. Don't like that.
Right.
Kind of like that, but only in a certain moment. So not right now. So you just kind of get into it. But that does make me think of also how old people are just, when people are like, oh man, look at this old guy. He just doesn't give a fuck. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, he does, but just about his own happiness
Right.
and whatever. So it's like, yeah, why waste your time and energy on things that you're not going to like or are pretty sure you won't like, when you're just like, yeah, I could just kind of, like you said, stay in my lane and be cool and have a good day. What everyone wants to have.
Right.
I know how to do that. And it's just focusing on my own shit or not getting worked up because this happened to me fucking yesterday. I was going to the grocery store and the parking lot was like the one way kind of,
Yeah.
I was like halfway down one, all the spots were taken. I was waiting for one woman to back out and this dude comes the wrong way down it, notices he's going the wrong way and then just keeps going forward. And I'm like, what are you doing? And then he goes, because the handicap spots, there wasn't anyone in there. So he's going to try to go around me there, but he gets parallel and then just starts yelling at me to move. And I'm like, bro, you went the wrong way. And in the moment I wasn't laughing, but afterwards I was like, what a way to just go about life.
Yeah.
Bro, it's a one way. What are you doing? And he goes, okay, yeah. So yeah, I fucked up. Like, yeah, I did. But you're not going to let me go? Bro, you're just not going to let me around? And I'm like, I can't. And then I looked, there's an old woman walking in front of my car. I'm like, I can't go anywhere. There's nowhere to get. He's like, oh, yeah, all right, fuck you, bro. You're not going to let me go. Fuck you. And I'm like, and then I go, okay, go. And I look, and then there's another car starting to come down the same lane. And I'm like, and I was like, you're someone else's problem now. Just go. And then he goes around me. And then that person's like, what the fuck? And then they have to back up so then he can go. And I'm like, this guy's fucking insane. But then also I was like, well, I hope he's not waiting in this parking lot for me to get out of the store.
Yeah, you're just like, all right, dude, I'm sorry, just chill. But that is like there are people who go through their whole life like that. Like,
yeah,
it's like, I don't know if this is an American thing, but like, because I feel like in other countries, people just set people straight real quick. But like, it's almost like we got this thing, or at least maybe it's like a Midwest thing or whatever. Maybe it's just my culture, but it's almost like if someone's an asshole, it's almost like I don't want to point that out because then I'll be an asshole, like I can't like, hey, you're doing some dumb shit. And most people should just be like, yo, like you're doing some dumb shit. Stop that. But instead I'm just like, no, like he's doing his thing. Like I don't want to, you almost like you don't want to bother somebody doing but it's like, that's how those fuckers get ahead in life is because no one checks their shit. Yeah. And it's like, yo, like someone should have checked you years ago. That's why, that's why instant karma, like knockout videos are so dope because you're like, you fucking extremely deserve that. And usually I don't want to see anybody get hurt. I don't like violence. I don't want to watch a fight generally. But like when some dude's like talking mad shit and then he like clearly fucks with the wrong hombre and it's just like, well, I don't know what you wanted. Like this is life telling you to stop doing this shit, man.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, it's just, one time I was at the gym and I was swimming laps and it was a full pool with even people waiting to get in. So there's two at a time. So, you're just cycling lap lanes. And this fucker comes in hot out of the locker room in his little Speedo, looks at our lane, jumps in. So there's three dudes and he swims right into a dude who didn't know he had jumped in. And the guy gets up. He's like, what the fuck? He's like, yo, man, I'm just trying to swim laps. He's like, there's two people in here. You don't get three fucking people. And he's instead of just like, you know what? I fucked up. I was just trying to get these laps in real quick. He stood in the middle of the pool and was screaming. Like literally people from the hot tub are like, get the fuck out of there. What the fuck are you doing? And he's like, I'm just trying to swim. Why don't you guys just let me swim? And then the manager comes in and he does this hideous bullshit where instead of just being a man, getting out, he keeps swimming. And so the manager in his little khakis has to walk next to him in the lap lane and goes, sir, you got to get out. You got to get out. God. And you're just like, this is how you want to live your life. You're an adult man, dude. We're going to have to see your ass in the locker. We're going to see you naked in the locker room in 10 minutes, bro. This is how you're going to live your life. What the fuck is wrong with you? But some people, it's just like the guy in the parking lot. They just go the wrong way and they're like, it's your problem. It's not my problem. I'm doing what I need to do. Fuck everybody else. And it's like, we need Kimbo Slice out here to fucking just take care of business, dude.
Bro, hey, for real. R.I.P. But
R.I.P.
That is so. I also love, like, I think nothing is funnier in comedy than assholes who are so convinced that they're right, but they just consistently get in their own way. And like never like Eastbound and Down, it was one of my favorite shows ever because the dude is so unhinged.
Right.
And is just like insanely wrong about everything, but has the bravado of like, I'm the smartest person in the room. And I mean, the character as a whole is great because he's like actually really sad, and you see that over the series and like this and that. But just the way he interacts, and everyone is like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? And then he walks out just like, look at these fucking idiots, don't even know what's going on. It's like, no, it's you. Now
it does seem fun once in a while to be that guy.
Oh yeah.
Because you have to almost have something missing, or you're so sad, but you repress it so deeply that you can't let it to the surface, which is what he did. But like to be able to walk through life that way. I mean, I've never had the confidence to swim into another man and be like, fuck you. This ain't my fault, I'll tell you that. Like, that is a level of like swag I don't think I've ever achieved. I haven't unlocked that yet, you know?
Yeah.
But boy, it does look fun. So as much as you hate him, you're like, God, that does look.
Yeah, it's like that type of dude that'll just slash your tire, and then you're like, "What the fuck?" He's like, "This is where I keep my knife." And you're like, "I get, all right, I guess."
All right,
like,
dude,
how do you argue with that? But it definitely is. I know what you're saying about the Midwest thing, where it's like you don't. It's kind of, it's easier to just step back and be like, "This guy's nuts," but I don't want to get involved in this and that. But I also kind of in the same. I feel like I've been saying this a bunch, in the same lane or in the same realm as the lesson, though. For the most part, I'm like, damn. I mean, this is going to, depending on what it is, if it's, obviously like, if someone's just running around punching people, yeah, I'm not going to be like, well, I don't know if this guy's kind of best, but it's like, okay, yeah, that's bad. But for the most part, it's like, this doesn't really affect me, and it's gonna be over. And so in the same thing with like that guy in the parking lot, in the moment, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, this is what you're doing is wrong, sir. Yeah. But then his response really was just, okay, yeah. So I fucked up. Yeah. But now you're the asshole. And I'm like, that's not how it works. But then for the most part, I'm like, afterwards, I wasn't like, God, this fucking guy, stomping around the store. But I'm just like, yeah, it's over. And it was weird, but.
Dude, being able to drop things is like, you'll add 10 years to your life if you can drop shit.
And that's kind of the personal thing where it's like seeing like, okay, this dude clearly wasn't like, oh, there's Elliott, I'm gonna go the wrong fucking way, and I'm gonna blame him for not getting. Like, he's just like,
you happen to be the victim who was in his way. You were a random dude, Yeah. The things that like the shit I have trouble dealing with, though. I mean, yes, it's so much easier to drop the guy who went the wrong way because you can tell on the surface this has nothing to do with who I am.
Yeah.
But when you have been personally wronged, like somebody has wronged you personally because you did something they didn't like, or you were some way they didn't like, dropping that shit, like, I'm a cow, dude. I'll chew on that cud for the rest of my life. Like, that shit just comes up and just randomly, and you're just like, fuck, dude. I have, especially in comedy, every comic has comics they don't like, comics they've had bad interactions with. And dude, like, just people, shit that happened to me 5 years ago, I'll be like, fuck, I just want to fucking, like, just, I can't wait to see your shit just unravel, you piece, and like, most likely that'll never happen and it'll just be a comic and whatever. But man, that shit, if I could learn to drop all that, I would be just so much better off.
I think, it comes with time. Where you just, it's, eventually you kind of forget about it. I guess I think about it kind of like a breakup where it's like, and you think about it a lot, at the beginning, but then as time goes on, it's less and less and less. And then you realize like, oh, this kind of doesn't really affect my life at all. Now, when it's someone that you're like praying for their downfall, if it happens, best believe I'm a watch and I'm gonna be right there. I'm gonna be stoked, but kind of in that same, God damn it, there it is again. But
in the same lane.
But like protecting your energy type deal, where it's like as enough time goes on, it's like, all right, I'm not gonna go out of my way to try to get this to happen. It's just like, whatever, fuck them. What, maybe I did something, but probably not. But like, whatever, they're off.
You really have to realize that most people are, especially in comedy, you really have to, like, in comedy, I have definitely learned to, like, be much more wary of who I, like, let in, I would say. Mm-hmm. Because you just quickly realize just the amount of fucking lunatics who join this fucking art form, and you're just like, oh, like, and it's weird too, because some of those, the easy ones to spot are like, you see them at an open mic, you're like, that person is crazy. There's no reason I should ever really be in a real meaningful conversation with them. I should never give them any personal information. Like, that's like, but those are the easy ones. But the ones who are like the little snakes where you're like, oh, I thought we were on a cool level, and then you just immediately were actually a bitch. Those are the ones that you're just like, fuck, like, you forget the levels that these people are operating under, where you're like, oh, like you're just a climber. Like you didn't care. You don't like
Yeah.
this. I was an easy win. Like this was an easy get. You got some likes on Twitter for this one. Like this is good. Like
Yeah.
those people, because you don't fucking run across a lot of people like that in your normal life.
Mm-mm.
Comedy is just a bunch of egos. So you don't realize like, oh, like, and at your normal job, there's no real incentive to get one over on somebody. If you and I both work at McDonald's and you like, hey, Elliott's fucking, like gay or what, whatever. Like no one's
Yeah.
going to be like, so you still both make minimum wage. But like in
Yeah.
comedy, there's this economy of like, oh, well, I said that he was bad, which means like right? Like we all agree that this might be bad. And you're like, all right, well, this is insane. And I didn't realize people wanted to operate like children, but that's a whole other thing where you just have to realize like some of these people are just the nastiest little snakes, where you're like, oh my God, I can't believe this is how you would do this, dog.
Yeah.
Like you won't even like, no face to face, no like, hey man, I have a problem with what you're doing. Just like one day you see some shit online, you're like, this is how you handle this issue. That could have been, a 5-minute conversation. This is how you handle it. All right, well, there it is. That is,
Yeah. Yeah. Last year I was talking to my therapist about like getting back into it and going out and doing mics, and this and that, and just kind of the social anxiety I was having of restarting and getting reestablished, and like, oh, I'm gonna be at mics where I don't know anyone and I gotta like just talk to people and this and that. And she was like, well, maybe just like try to, the next one you go to, just right when you get there, just like start talking to someone and just kind of like strike up. It doesn't have to be a deep or meaningful conversation, but just, kind of like practice or whatever, but just, like that. And I was like, I see your point. I see what you're trying to do. But one thing you learn pretty quickly in comedy is do not talk to someone at an open mic that you don't know until you've seen their set, because you can start talking to someone and it's seeming cool, and then they're like, oh, I'll be right back, I gotta go up, and then they say the most unhinged shit you have ever heard of, and then sit right back down next to you, and now you're like, well, fuck.
Yep, the stank's on me now.
Yeah,
now I got the crazy stank.
Yeah,
dude, it's kind of unfortunate, because it is like a bunch of lonely, fucked up souls who are all trying to like, make their little way in this world, and then you're like, but I can't be associated with this type of shit, man. I'm sorry. I used to be much more like, whatever, like it'll work itself out. But now, like, especially as you go through some just like bad experiences with comics, so much more, I'm just like, I'm vetting you way harder.
Yeah.
Like the vetting process now is just like, and that's why I also, when we were really young, we were always like, why don't the older comics talk to us? Or like, what do I have to? And then you realize like, dude, because they have seen a million fuckers like you, and they tried to be nice to a couple of them, and then they got burned, and they're like, nope, no. And I'm not, it's not an ego thing for me now. I'm just like, I'm trying to be polite. I say hello to somebody who's new. If they're in the green room, I won't ignore them, but I'm just not going to drop into a conversation simply because it's just like, let's just keep this until it naturally progresses. I'm not trying to be like, hi, I just want to welcome you to, like, no, that's not my job. That's not who I am.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's like, you got to protect your energy, where it's like,
dude.
All right, I'll be professional, I'll be courteous, but
right.
I'm not going to invite you over for a fucking sleepover. Like it is what it is.
And and it's also being like an older comic in the scene. I'm also not trying to give a free comedy lesson to every fucker who has that like, oh, what would you do? It's like, well, here's what I did. I did this for 9 straight years. I bombed a fuck ton, and I'm still here. So I don't know. We're in the same green room. Does that help? Like, what do you mean? Like, I don't want to be everybody's fucking sage, And so many of these people try to corner you with like, so it's like, no, we're not doing this. I'm not doing this.
As soon as they take that up breath.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah. Sorry, sister. It ain't happening here. Go listen to fucking You Made It Weird to talk about the same shit. Like they've already discussed this a million times. Better comics have discussed this on a million podcasts more than I need to your face right now. So let's just keep it at that.
Well, this is perfect because I usually ask this more towards the beginning, but I did forget to ask. But what's like a quick backstory on you? What's this for people who are unfamiliar? What's just to
Yeah.
get them caught up?
Yes. I started comedy, like I said, I just hit my 9 years. I did my first like month in Minneapolis. And then I ended up moving out to Portland, unrelated to comedy, really. Just had a buddy out here who was kind of like, oh, it's a good city. And, I didn't want to live in Minneapolis anymore. So came out and just kept doing it. And yeah, that's pretty much my like comedy story. But yeah, it's just been, it's been good. It's been ups and downs, but, I think Portland was a good scene to definitely be a part of, at least for the years I was. It's definitely in a different position than when I started. It's a lot of new people now, and I don't know if that's as helpful. But for me, when I started, there was still like Ian Carmel was here, and Shane Torres was here, and like some of
Yeah.
these guys who've actually like this into like a legit career. So those guys, like you're like, oh, these guys are like doing something. Where now I guess I'm like the vet, and it's like this guy ain't doing shit. I don't know what this is
Yeah.
not. So, but it was a good scene, and and like we were talking about before, like the city fucks with comedy here. A lot of venues will be open to doing like a mic or a show, which is cool. Um, and yeah, I'm happy that I think it was a good place to begin. I'm ready to get out of it now. I've probably been here for a few too many years, but that's how it all worked out. But yeah, so I'm just figuring out the next steps really, and just trying to do the best you can with like with basically what is guesswork. You're just like, oh, I hope this works. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I have fucking no clue if this is gonna
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay. So kind of like going forward, how have you noticed? I know you did say that you are trying to work on just kind of brushing shit off and not letting it stick, which like I think everyone I don't I don't know. I think it'd be weird to find someone who is just so
Yeah.
like
It was like, no, I want
nothing
it all to stick. I want it
yeah,
to just build
or
me.
like
I want to,
nothing
yeah.
bothers them at all and you're just like
Right.
I don't think you're really experiencing life at all.
Yes. Yes.
But so going forward, how have you noticed that kind of this realizing this lesson of just kind of having a thicker skin and knowing that everything will pass? How have you noticed that it affects your life or your
Well,
decisions going forward?
the payoff for internalizing that lesson, and obviously, like every comic knows that if you do it for a year, even you'll probably notice you have a thicker skin because of like the amount of bombing that you do and the amount of rejection that comedy leads. Um, but I have noticed like just being more confident because you do realize that like the things that you are worried about, even if it goes the worst possible way, even if you're on a show and it's just like the most embarrassing bomb, or if someone is mad at you, no matter what, the ability to kind of not let it get into the deep crevices of your personhood and just kind of keep it on the surface, is that you kind of realize like when you're going out for something, if you're, I mean, I'm not single, but if I was single, being like, oh, like it won't be that hard to talk to a girl or something, like,
Mm-hmm.
or if you're like if you want to ask about a job or an opportunity, like those things I'm a little more confident about because it's just like, what's the worst they're going to say? No. I mean, that kind of shit doesn't really get to me anymore. Like the rejection shit doesn't bother me nearly as much as it used to, I think, because it's just like, you just realize that like it's not all going to work out your way, and also that unless someone is fucking beating your ass or stabbing you, like the words, I don't know, it's weird because like a lot of the edgelord comics have been like words don't matter, but in some way it's like they're in some way right, like it doesn't matter. Like
Yeah.
I am trying to keep it so they don't really matter that much, and that has helped me a lot in just my own personal confidence, because I used to be so fucking nervous to talk to people, and I was such an introvert and such like just like anytime I was at a party just getting like massive like social anxiety and panic attacks, and just being the guy who just like stand in a corner all that feeling of wanting to talk to people but just feeling like you were almost incapable of going up to a stranger and being like, hi, this is who I am. And that kind of is all past, because like if I talk to somebody and they're like rude to me, I'm just like, all right, that's okay, that's that. And now I know that about this person. And yeah, it doesn't like crush me like it used to.
Yeah.
And that has been very helpful. And you need that. You need that just to be a fucking adult in this world.
Yeah.
Is just not letting the world fucking like break your ass every time it doesn't go your way, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And also, I think a big thing too is understanding, like you said, the worst that can happen is they say no.
Yeah.
Because then what? You're just right back where you started. But in a little way, you're like a little bit ahead because now you know.
Yeah, you have information.
Exactly. And it sucks, yeah, because it's like you're still getting told no about something that you wanted to do or
Right.
You're looking forward to, but all right, it's not like it should, I mean, unless it's like I need this raise
Yeah.
to feed my family.
Right,
and they're
right.
like no, and you're like, okay, that's fine. Like,
Yeah.
no, that you should care about. But for me, it kind of clicked right when when I realized I wanted to leave Seattle, and I was like, all right, well, why don't I just ask to be on as many shows as possible? And that was the thing too, like in comedy, not realizing, oh, you can ask to be on stuff, or just as a creative or whatever in general, just you can ask. And then the worst that's going to happen is they say no. I mean, and then overthinking it, I was like, well, I think the worst that could happen is this person is like, I will never book you ever. But
even then,
that's insane.
Right. It's insane. B, if that is true, it's literally one show.
Yeah, exactly.
It's literally, it's like you realize when you do comedy, like there are so many other avenues that you don't think even exist because you're a Seattle comic or you're a Portland comic. And it's just like, but yeah, I mean, the world is, comedy happens all over the fucking world,
Yeah. Yeah. So it really is. It's like, if you want something, kind of like you said, you just gotta just jump.
This is what basketball Twitter calls shoot your shot, folks. You got to shoot your shot. If you're in the NBA Twitter world, if you're in hoops Twitter, shoot your damn shot. It's Friday night. You see a gal that you're interested. You see a guy you're interested across the bar. What are they going to say? You're going to say, hey, how's it going? They say, go fuck yourself. Well, that wasn't it. It's
shot
just
missed.
Shot missed. But, shooters shoot, dude. Shooters fucking shoot. All right? I think Kobe saw a shot that he was like, oh, that didn't go in. Same shot next time. I mean, it's just shoot or shoot. So
yeah,
I would be like a dude who'd shoot one shot or 0 and be like, I should kill myself. Like I would just be like, I'm 0 for 0 for tonight, but it feels like you've missed 30. And that is like, you actually, not by not doing anything, you feel like in a negative. You gotta get out and live a little bit.
Dude, I was the same way. I mean, introvert, shy, social anxiety. So when I was drinking, I would go to a bar and just sit by myself.
Oh, dude, I've done that. I can't imagine. I mean, I don't drink anymore, but dude, those nights where you would drink alone at a bar and couldn't, you're literally seeing drunk people having a time. You're like, they won't even remember me if I try to say hello. And I'd be like, it was just, nope. You got your bar. The only person I would ever even kind of be able to talk to is the bartender, because like, well, they're paid to talk to me in some way. Yeah. And then you're just having some sad conversation with a guy who's just like, I'm just here at work, dude. Just talk to somebody else, Yeah. Ugh. Oh, I'm just getting a shame wave just thinking about those nights,
that's the thing,
dude.
Thinking about it, I'm like, that's fucking sad, dude.
It's so sad. And but it's really sad when you see people who, because when you're on the other side of it, you're like, oh my God, like, look, I'm so glad I'm not that person. But some people never get out of that.
Yeah.
They just literally are that person their whole life. They can't talk to people. They're fucking afraid of life. They never take a risk. And you're like, this is not good. Like you gotta fucking, you gotta do something.
Now, because in that moment, I didn't like it.
No, I hated it. I wanted to die. I was so miserable.
But then it's like, I'd leave and I'm like, well, that's just what I do. And then I go and do the same thing. But now, like, looking at it, it's just
because it was like, even though I hated it, it was still scarier for me to talk to that stranger. That's the thing. It was like, the option wasn't, it was like, well, look, dude, I hate this. I hate drinking alone. But it would even be worse if I talked to somebody and they didn't like me or whatever. That, in my mind, was such a big thing that I couldn't ever get over that. I just literally couldn't convince myself that, like, and it was like, when you're drinking too is even worse because you're like, I thought I was supposed to be confident. God damn it. I see all these movies where like these fuckers are drunk and they jump off a building and it's fine. And I'm just like, I can't even talk to another guy at a bar. Like, it's just like, what? And then you're just the spiral of like self-hate and you're just like, oh God, I gotta, yeah. So that's, you don't want to be that guy. You don't want to be that guy at all. It's the worst.
Yeah. And kind of looking, once I realized it, you know, taking stock and looking back and being like, you know, when I was drinking, like when you're drinking is one, if you stop drinking, then looking back is one thing. Cause you're like, I didn't like that I acted like this, but you're like, yeah, but I was fucking wasted. So like, I didn't even know what was up at that point.
Right.
But that's a thing where I'm like, okay, that's a true personality trait. Yes. Whether I'm drinking or not, that's there. Yes. So how do I, you know, work around it? And for me, that's kind of where I learned kind of my own little lesson, which was like, if you just got to do shit. Like when I stopped drinking, I got super into like self-help and self-improvement shit. And I watched a bunch of Gary V.
Oh, dude, you got into the Gary V school?
Bro, I got into Gary V. But it was all like his YouTube shit. I didn't pay any money or anything. It was all like YouTube stuff. And then after a while, I was like, oh, the basis. I think it was when he would do, when he would stream and he would have like people call in, and he would just repackage it. But everything he was saying was basically like, just do it. Yeah. Like whatever you want to do, you just got to do it. And
right. Cause you just make a million excuses. I mean, that's, you know, you talk to people in our line of work where they're like, you know, they'll come up to you like, I always wanted to do stand up. It was like, well, I mean, the difference between you and me is that I did it. That's the only difference. You know, you know, and that's it. And, you know, it's so sad too. Like I remember this comic who he doesn't even do comedy anymore, but it was like my first year and he'd been doing it for a number of years, but we did a podcast together and he gave me a ride home and he was like, yeah, man, like I knew I wanted to be a comic since I was like 18, but I was so scared. I didn't do it till he was like, you know, like in his whatever late, like he gave up like 8 years of his dream because he was just so scared of doing it, you know? And like all that left him with was 8 less years to try to achieve his dream, which, you know, he didn't do. So the regret that you feel for not trying to just, you'll always feel better. Like you'll feel better if it's a swing and a miss versus not swinging. I think like, I just think that generally you'll be like, fuck it. I did it. I tried it. It led to something else, but just sitting there in your own little cocoon. No one has ever been like, what a great night. What a great night. Just sitting there by myself. So sick. Just having panic attacks left and right and just keeping my exterior shell hard as fuck, dude. What an awesome life I lead. No one has ever said that is cool, you know, but you know, the guy who fucking goes out there and takes a few shots, even if they're all miss, at least he did something, you know, and you just want to be the guy who did something.
God, that's so, I think of someone waking up, their bed drenched in sweat, just like empty, just Mountain Dew cans and like a couple of piss jars and just terrible, but just like, what a great night.
Dude.
Wow.
What a rager. What a fucking, what a killer night, dude.
Really tied one off last night, huh? Holy shit.
Boy. Another solo day for daddy. This is fun. Another, 21 years straight. That's cool. Good God.
God damn. All right. Well, were there any books or any media that has helped you kind of along your journey or with this lesson at all?
I don't even know if this was before or after. I think this was actually before, but I never really got into a lot of like the self-help books or the self-help kind of like podcasts so much. I did take a course that it was actually up in Seattle, but this was before I went to Alaska, but it was called like Landmark Education, I think. And, that helped for a while. I think though it was, it was kind of short lived. I also did like 2 10-day silent meditation retreats, which also helped, but that stuff fades, you know, like you got to keep that practice up. So like you do have a bunch of realizations. It's kind of like psychedelics. Like you have a bunch of realizations, but then if you don't keep trying to like keep those in your day-to-day life, like it's like a language, you know, like I used to be pretty much fluent in Spanish because I was speaking it every day. And then I fucking don't speak it anymore and it's pretty much gone. It's the same thing as like these like kind of things. If you don't actually like keep them around you, you'll revert back to your, native language, but you'll be speaking the English of your mental health or whatever. So you got to keep it fucking fresh. So it would probably be good to do that, but it's just never been a thing I've really actively sought out, I guess, of like finding that stuff. But everybody who does it seems like they always have like, oh, I learned this. And I'm just, also, I'm really bad at reading. I just am not a great reader. And
Audiobooks, dude.
Yeah, I guess I should. It's weird. Yeah. I don't like reading, but I feel like audiobooks are cheating, which has left me in a terrible position. I'm just like, oh, these fucking pussies and their little audiobooks. The real man reads. It's like, you haven't read a book in like 8 years, you fucking idiot. Like, what are you doing? That's not the point. Yeah, it's not the point. I just want, so I do got to get better at that because it's also probably hurting my comedy that I'm not putting ideas into my head as much as I should be.
Yeah, that's actually the real reason I wanted to have you on the podcast is to talk to you about. Yeah,
about everybody's noticed that you haven't really been reading.
Yeah, I'm not even recording right now. Yeah, this is just so we could get to it.
Reading intervention.
No, I'd say it definitely you like find your, you find your lane.
Find your lane, baby.
For
there's a theme here
for what you like. All right, well, kind of wrapping it up. Couple little rapid fire questions for you. First off, what do you think the key to a happy life is? In like 10 seconds or less, quick.
Pursuing what you want. It's not, I don't even think it's actually about happiness. I think it's about more fulfillment as I age.
Ooh, okay. All right.
Yes.
Good answer.
Yes.
Second one is, what is one of your simple pleasures?
I got a fucking super bad sweet tooth so any, M&M's, Reese's peanut butter cups, it's like a fucking quick bang, but daddy's putting on a few pounds. He's not as svelte as he once was. So those are going to have to go away soon.
Okay. And Portland's a good chocolate town. They got some
Portland's
good shit there.
Yeah, they put out some fucking sweet treats that are pretty mind blowing, but this quarantine hit this waistline and I'm like skinny fat, which is honestly, I'm thinking almost worse than fat because fat people are like, there's fat and that is what it is. And like, they don't, but skinny fat, you're like, I don't look it, but boy, I used to be able to run and jump and hike. And now I'm just like, so I need to get my shit back in order.
You go for walks?
Do walks. We got a dog, so I take the dog on a walk. But even then, you're just kind of like, is this really, is a half an hour walk? Am I really going to be ripped and shredded? No, I think I'm maintaining, which is almost annoying,
I see. You want that P90X?
I should do some of that shit, but I just find it so annoying and stupid. But I got to get on something because I've been watching, I know this is a much longer answer than 10 seconds, but I filmed this documentary this summer where I went on the road right after COVID lifted. And so I brought a cameraman and I filmed from Portland to New York City over a month in my van. Mm-hmm. And I'm just watching all this footage, editing it. We're very close to like kind of wrapping this edit up. And dude, just looking at your body for literal hours, like you always have a general sense of, I don't like my body, or at least I do. I'll just speak for myself. But then you see it on camera and you're like, oh, like you don't even see all these angles. Cause you just get your angle, you get your POV and you're like, all right, well, maybe your brain is hidden certain things from you, but dude, that camera, it do not lie, my man. You are just like, what is that? Why do I stand like that? Why? Like, it's just all your shit put out. And I would suggest anybody who wants to body shame someone else, just take a gander at your thing on camera for like 10 hours and tell me if you want to go judge someone else's body, because I do not. I got plenty of work to do on my own machine here. Anybody else's journey is their thing to deal with. But good God, it's been a sad journey.
All right, man. So sweets. That's
sweets is the thing. Yes. Wrapping it up, we're talking sweets. Good God. All right.
Like, what's a simple pleasure? You're like, sweets. Yeah. God, I hate my fucking body.
I hate myself so much, Elliott.
But I do love chocolate.
But I love chocolate. It's good.
All right. And last question. This is a new one. You're the first one to get it.
Okay.
Who is someone you hope to work with in the future?
In any capacity. Yeah, I would say like I got into comedy because of Bill Burr. So if I could ever be on like a show with Bill Burr, it would be pretty special to me. The weirdest moment I've had in not even the weirdest, but one of the weirdest moments is I was featuring for a guy named Jason Lawhead who opens for Burr regularly. He's like one of his like 3 road openers. So I was featuring for him at a club here in town, and he was texting Bill Burr, and it just like blew my mind that someone
Yeah.
had Bill Burr's number, and he was like, "Oh, I'm texting Burr right now," and I just kind of like legit had like a little like heart, like, oh, just like, oh my
Yeah.
god, like that's my hero. And but yeah, so if I could ever just do a show with him in some capacity, I think I would be like, that would be like one of those wins where you're like, all right, I did whatever you fucking said about me, I did that, and that's okay. So,
Yeah.
we'll see.
That's what's up, man. We're
Yeah,
putting it
man.
out there, in the universe.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, Jake, what do you want to plug? Where can people find you? Who are you?
Who am I? Yeah, people, if they want, they can follow me at the comedian Jake on Instagram and Twitter. I also post all my dates on my website, thecomedianjake.com. I have a YouTube channel, just my name, Jake Silberman, if you want to subscribe to that. I've been less active on there recently, but we have some stuff coming out that should be dropping in the next few months. And my special is out on this streaming platform called Tubi, which I don't know if many people have heard of it or used it, but it is free. And that is on there now. So if you watch it on there, I think I get like a dime. So, throw throw a few nickels in my pocket if you could. It's called the Crowdwork album. It's on free Tubi. You don't even need an account. You can just search on your TV and you'll see it. So that's pretty much the body of work right now. I have a podcast myself called the Jake Silberman Show. It's generally just a solo thing, but I drop that every Friday. So if you want more of this voice in your ear, you can get that once a week. And that is all she wrote, baby.
Perfect.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming on. As always, thank you for listening, for watching, for checking out the show. And be sure to tune in next time when we're back with another great guest and another great lesson. Bye.